So good morning, everybody, and welcome to our introduction to the agency profitability series. This is an initiative we've been working on probably now for over 12 months, and obviously are excited to share with you where we are today as we're ready to launch it. For anybody that hasn't met me, I'm Suzanne Barnes. I'm head of people here at the Alliance. Previously, I did spend over 20 years in agencies, my last role being running the European Fiat account. My main role today is just actually to press the buttons on the presentation, but I wanted to spend just a couple of minutes giving you a little bit of background to the Alliance training programme and where the agency profitability series fits in it. And then I'm going to hand you over to Graham Kemp, who you all know, who's going to take you through the background to this. And then Stuart Dunk will take you through the workshops in more detail. So Graham and Stuart will be taking you through most of the agenda today. And obviously, I think we'll be about 30 minutes, maybe even less, but plenty of time for questions at the end. A little bit about the Alliance training. We're not like a traditional kind of commercial training company. The most important thing, I think, for us is that any training that we do is relevant. I spend a lot of my time talking to members and really listening to what it is that you want. And certainly this initiative has come out of work with the Commercial Action Group. So we hope that you'll see after what we take you through today that it's absolutely relevant for agencies, independent agencies at the moment. We obviously want to make sure our training is affordable. We want you to invest in your people. We know that training is important. We know that your staff want it and can almost demand it. So we want to make it as affordable and accessible as possible. And finally, we want to make sure that our training is flexible. People today want to access training in different ways. I think a few years ago, almost all of our training was face-to-face, and now well over half of it is online. We are seeing more of a move to face-to-face again. I think people do want to interact with others in a live situation. So we've got more face-to-face, and recently we've done some on-demand training as well. So recognizing that time is kind of a critical factor in people kind of not going on training courses, we're starting to trial doing some on-demand training, which obviously you can do in your own time. We're quite excited about our new website. We've now got over 100 training courses, and if anybody had ever looked at the old website, it was pretty difficult to navigate. So as a consequence, people didn't go and look on the Alliance website to see what training was on offer. What we've done now is introduced a totally different way of kind of displaying our training. So you'll see on the left-hand side of this slide, we have these different orange icons. They cover all the different skills that we offer. So well-being, client service, obviously commercial, which is what we're talking about today. And you can either click on those to get all the relevant courses, or you can use the search bar above. So you'll see on the right-hand side, I clicked on the commercial button. And so the agency profitability series comes up, and that would come up on the right-hand side. So if you get time, do have a look and kind of navigate your way through it, but it is much, much easier. As I said, we've got over 100 courses. Obviously, we have our old favourites that we've been doing, but we have developed some new courses for this year in response to what you've been telling us. And they tend to be more at the senior level. I think this is a relatively new area for us. So we've got some leadership training, and we've also got some coaching packages. We've got new business and business development. But what we're here today to talk about is the agency profitability series. And on that note, I am going to hand over to Graham, who will take you through kind of why we think this is so important.
Hi, I'm Graham Kemp from the Alliance. At the Alliance, we felt that one thing all our members might appreciate is help with becoming more profitable. And that's how this program started, as Suzanne said, over 12 months ago. We wanted to provide the tools and techniques, and indeed the confidence, for our member agencies to consider ways and develop ways to improve their profitability. And as we all know, that's really critical at this stage. I'll just go to the next slide, Suzanne. In our survey towards the end of last year, 25% of our members responded saying their margins are decreasing. And slightly worrying, the survey that the results of which we're just about to publish show that number increasing to 29%. So almost a quarter of our members are saying their margins are decreasing. So it is time to focus and maybe learn some new techniques around improving profitability. One of the other concerns I think a little bit is to improve profitability demands change, a shift across the entire agency, and especially with the senior leadership team, because we need to look at and explore new approaches to agency client relationships in terms of negotiation, and also the whole profitability mix and change and pricing. So in answer to the question, have you changed the way you price your products and services to move away from rate card? Excellent. That's 38% of our members said, yes, we have. We've been exploring new ways to charge. Unfortunately, that leaves 62% who have not made any changes and stick to rate card. And that's one of the things that this whole series is there to boost your confidence, to think and develop new ways of pricing. So the other concern a little bit is in terms of pitching. We all know that pitching can be a very expensive business, and obviously that impacts profitability. But it's surprising to note that our members reply to the question, how often do you turn down pitch opportunities? 29% said rarely or never. And that really shouldn't be the case if you have a very confident positioning and you therefore know which pitches, which clients are right for you. And that number should be much, much reduced in truth. And that, I think, is one of the ways in which you can improve profitability. Now, as Suzanne said, we've been working on this program now for over 12 months with Stuart Dunk of Don't Forget to Look. We met Stuart in one of our very early commercial group meetings, and we're impressed with his knowledge and his approach to agency pricing, agency profitability. Stuart has over 14 years experience in both marketing agencies and client side in marketing procurement. He now focuses that knowledge, experience to help agencies boost their effectiveness and profitability. And he comes with a blue chip profile, if you like. His previous roles at Nike, Reckitt Benexa, Danone, Betfair, and the London Olympics. And as I say, so he knows what clients value in agencies. And his role now is to help agencies to deliver against those desires and actually therefore boost profitability. With that, I'm going to hand over to Stuart briefly to introduce himself. So if we could stay on that slide briefly, Suzanne. Yeah.
Thanks, Graham. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, as Graham was saying, we've been working together for over a year now to put together the principles and outputs of these workshops and this series, and we're really excited to deliver it to you this morning and start to get some things booked in and working with you more closely. Yeah, as Graham said, look, I've been working in marketing procurement for most of my career, so I'll have been on the other side of the table from a couple of you perhaps at different times, and sending out hundreds of RFPs over that time, and obviously trained in negotiation and pricing from a buyer's perspective. And for the last 3 years, it's been quite a pleasure to change tack and actually start supporting agencies through that journey so they can navigate these things a bit more confidently and capably. So when Graham and I met last year, we started cooking up this plan to start helping you member agencies. So yeah, happy to talk to you all today and take you through this in more detail in the coming slides.
So the way we started this was we gathered data on what issues impact agency profitability, and then asked our commercial group to rank them in order of significance and importance. And as you can see on the right, that's the poll that we took at one of the meetings. And there were 4 topics that really stood out as being highly impactful and the ones that agencies really needed the most help with. And they are value-based selling, negotiations and influence, navigating marketing procurement, and pricing. And they're the 4 workshops that we're going to talk a little bit more about this morning. So next slide, Suzanne. So we don't come at this completely fresh. It's not something that isn't tried and tested. So last year, James Burgon from Exposure, who ran our commercial group, effectively put his money where his mouth is, and he ran the workshop program last year with his senior leadership team at Exposure. There are 8 to 10 people in every session and covering all the various disciplines from finance through to agency leadership, client management, etc. So the entire senior management team got involved in this. As I say, it can be a cultural change within an agency to have a different approach to pricing and profitability. And his feedback was this, and I've got a few things highlighted. So the reason they did it was to improve the commercial skill set of the senior leadership team. He believes that the members of the Alliance will quickly recoup the cost of the training modules, and that's obviously significant. I'm sure if everyone believed that totally, there would be no hesitation but to book this immediately this session is over. And that's obviously what we'd like to happen. But finally, these modules are recommended for all agency management and agency leaders. So they went through it and they're already benefiting from running the program. So I'm going to hand over to Stuart now, who's going to give you more details of what those 4 modules entail, and then the program as to when we're going to run them. So over to you, Stuart.
Thanks, Graham. Can we? Oh, thank you, Suzanne. So yeah, as Graham was saying, folks, we took 9 topics that we felt were impacting agency profitability to the commercial group meeting last year, and we had this pretty much this exact slide in front of them and said, look, what do you think is going to be most impactful for you? These 4 were voted for, so we really listened to the feedback, and we've built things, modules and topics, workshops around this. That's not to say that if you like any of the other ones, we can't do something for you, but that would be a bit of a side conversation. So just reach out to Graham and Suzanne if that is the case, if the other ones in white do look interesting. But if we can go on to the next slide, please, Suzanne, that would be fantastic. Oh, here we go. Yeah, just let these fall down, Suzanne, if you can. A couple more clicks. Thank you. So value-based selling, I won't just read the slide at you, but I'm sure you'll get hold of this after the session, everyone. But so value-based selling is probably the workshop that we often suggest to do first. Basically, it's about an agency mindset change. Every opportunity that we have to talk to a brand or a prospect is an opportunity to reinforce or to reduce the feeling that we're actually all about creating impact and being effective at the work that we're doing with the brand, with the potential client. So the session really goes into how to create that feeling at the brand side that every time you talk to them, you are differentiating yourselves from the competition by being all about their consumer, all about their business objectives, all about their needs. So we really get into that, and that really the research shows that agencies that are good at value-based selling, so not just value-based pricing, that's kind of the cherry on the cake, but value-based selling, the way that you sell, the way you make the brand feel, this really gives them a differentiated sense from the competition, helps you stand out. So that's a really valuable one that we've had some good feedback on. If we can jump on to the next one, please, Suzanne. Negotiation and influence. This session takes into consideration a lot of the great writers and researchers on the topic. So we curate a few of the nice examples that are out there in the world. You don't have to take my word for everything. We do pull a lot of nice things together from external resources. But then what we really get into is how procurement are taught to negotiate and influence. So using a bit of my background and experience, we kind of lift the lid on how the Chartered Institute of Procurement coach junior procurement people through to becoming fully chartered. But crucially, what does that mean for agencies? How will that show up in a negotiation with you? And how can we kind of counteract that? So we look a little bit at negotiation types and tactics. We'll lift the lid on how brands will treat you depending on the amount of money being spent and how complex they see the type of work that you're doing, i.e. how easy is it to replace you, to walk around the corner and find another agency. This will dictate how procurement will negotiate with you. The counterpoint to that is they also get taught how you'll treat them based on how attractive they are and how much money is at play. So we kind of lift the lid on some of the stuff that procurement people get taught. We go into a little bit of negotiation ethics, power within negotiations, and we always do some role plays as well. One of the things that we do with the workshops, when it's a bespoke workshop, so all of the attendees are from one agency, is we do an intake session, a prep session with people from that agency, where we talk about how they would sort of self-score themselves on some of these topics. And we can talk about preparing for these role plays, for example, in this session as part of that intake. So there's a couple of different ways of doing things. Okay, on to navigating marketing procurement. Obviously something very close to my heart. This session I found with exposure was really fun because it actually just became a big Q&A because obviously it was my job for so long. And always very happy to get into the details with any of the agencies that decide to come as a bespoke session with everyone from the same agency. But what we do in this one is we really define who marketing procurement are, what they're trying to achieve. We sort of debunk some of the myths, talk about some of the stigmas that probably face procurement and why some of those are deserved. We talk a bit about decision-making processes and process ownership within things like RFPs. The reason that we do that is so that we can help give you the capability and confidence to know where to push back or where to try to hack the process a little bit, make yourselves more memorable. We know that procurement will try to treat everything as apples to apples, and not every agency is an apple. So how can we make sure that you're able to stand out from the crowd without annoying the procurement team in an RFP situation and come away with that win? So we're really going to talk about how to flex our language and our approach to each and every individual brand. It's very easy to find out what sort of language the brand will be using to talk about value, how they talk about their consumer, how they talk about marketing, and we'll go into some ways of really uncovering how we can make the brand feel like we are understanding them really well simply by reflecting a bit of their language back to them. And we'll also spend some time looking at procurement outreach. So how can we have really impactful and effective outreach to procurement, even if there's no pitch that's been sent to us, RFP that's been sent to us? How can we turn procurement into an ally for the future so that we're front of mind when they do have some work that's available? Thanks, Suzanne. And finally, what I found worked really well with exposure, and what I would encourage everyone to do, is to leave the pricing session until last. If you think about it, all of the skills and principles and theories and practice that we do on the other 3 workshops, they kind of come together in us being able to set and defend the prices that we want when it comes to negotiation, either with procurement or directly with the decision maker like a CMO. So the pricing session, we get through a load of stuff. We talk about value and performance-based pricing. We look at how we have to be positioned as experts and perceived as experts in order to charge a premium price. We look at what the best agencies are doing on pricing as a topic. We look at something pretty specific around zero-based budgeting. One or two of you that may have worked with a couple of the global FMCG giants in the last couple of years may have taken part in some zero-based budgeting. So it does help to understand what these sorts of principles mean. How to deal with different types of buyer, price-sensitive buyers, value-based buyers, analytical buyers, these sorts of things. We'll give you some examples of how to deal with different personalities across the table from you. And a couple of really specific but crucial ones: how to ask for the budget and when to do it. Discounting, when should we do it? What are the dangers of discounting? How does it impact our perception and our positioning? And we'll also share quite a good long list of pricing resources and inspiration, blogs, websites, other authors, and so on. One of the things that we do in the bespoke workshops on pricing is that we'll take on a couple of statements of work that you've already done with existing clients and review those for you as part of the prep for the session, so we can do really specific work on pricing that you've already done and give some feedback on how we could elevate that if we were to do it again. Okay, next slide, please, Suzanne. Thank you.
So I think this is me, is it? So just in terms of the detail, thanks, Stuart. It's really interesting. We have dates in for one of each of the workshops. So the first one is value-based selling, which takes place on the 22nd of February. So it's kind of 6 weeks away, I think. That's followed by negotiation and influence on the 4th of April. Navigating marketing procurement on the 22nd of May, and finally pricing on the 10th of August. Now, all these workshops are one full day, and they are face-to-face. They'll be taking place in London. And the costs for Alliance members is £1,000 plus VAT, which actually we think is a really good price. And I think we're pretty confident that you will easily earn that back probably on your first pitch or your first kind of negotiation on a contract with a client. They are limited to just 12 delegates per workshop. Obviously, we recommend you do all 4 workshops, but equally you could choose those that you think are most kind of appropriate for you. As I said, there's only 12 delegates. We had over 60 people kind of register for this event today. So if you are interested, if you need any more information, either go onto the website and you can book your place there, or you can drop me an email. Stuart also talked about the option to do them in-house. So they can be run in-house, each of those, either as a half day. The cost of that would be £2,750, or as a full day, which we would recommend, but kind of mindful of kind of time and cost. The full day is priced at £5,000. So as I said, if you need any more information, or if you just want to go ahead and book, let me know. And
I would just add to that, Suzanne, if I may. So just to kind of to talk about that balance between the face-to-face workshop, where it's up to 12 delegates. So obviously that would be your peers from the Alliance. What that's going to dictate is that we probably don't get into too many specifics about your agency. And one of the benefits, I think, of doing the in-house option is that you can bring chapter and verse about the reality of what's happening with your agency, real examples, live examples, specific questions, without having to worry too much about sharing anything super sensitive. It's also actually really good value, the in-house workshop. If we're going to be looking at sort of let's say 8 people coming from the agency to an in-house workshop, that's actually better value per person than the 12 delegate session. So just you've got those options for you. As we mentioned earlier, with exposure, for example, we did this with the whole SLT. So it was the leadership team from the sales team, account handling leadership team, the finance leadership team, and just the agency leaders, the C-suite from the agency as well. So we found that it was really relevant across all of those 3 or 4 groups. Obviously, everyone who's engaging with clients, whether existing clients or through a sort of sales lens, there was a high degree of relevance for everyone. So yeah, just wanted to say, have a think about both of the options. The in-house workshops we would arrange directly with you on a date to suit you.
So I think that's pretty much it from the 3 of us. Are there any questions? Please don't be quiet. Nothing?
I have a question for everyone. Was anyone at the original meeting where we did the survey? Interesting.
Is that a no?
No, sorry, wasn't there.
Feel like I might have been, but I can't remember. Sorry.
To be fair, it was a wee while ago.
Yeah, I feel like I remember the questions.
So no other questions. Was it helpful? Are you interested?
Yes, really good. Thank you, Stuart, and everyone. I think it's a really important topic, and I think it's great that you've offered the the members the kind of the shared option or the in-house. I think that's a really good shout. So lots of food for thought. But thank you very much.
Yeah, interesting.
I've got a question, if that's okay. Are you also offering online workshops, or is it just face-to-face?
So we'll be doing the workshops where it's up to 12 delegates face to face.
Okay.
I think if it's a bespoke workshop, and you've got an agency that's sort of scattered all over the place, and to fill the slots, they might be coming in from different places.
Yeah.
If it's easier for you to do it online, we'll find a way to do that.
Okay.
I've found when I do workshops online that are quite lengthy, it's best to split them up into 2 or 3 little chunks and do them over a couple of days. But we would just look into that with you.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, we've got offices based in like New York and like all over sort of thing. So I had another question. I can't remember what it was. It might come to me in a second. I'll give someone else the mic.
I've got a question. Is it pretty generic? Because obviously sat on this call, I'm assuming that we're a media agency, there'll be creative agencies, PR agencies, etc. Is it generic across all the disciplines, do you find, or would that make it more specific to the in-house training?
I think, Frank, naturally, if we did an in-house session as part of the intake session that we do a week or 2 ahead of it, is we could ask you to sort of, to describe your capability and confidence on the workshop topic ahead of time, so that I'd know where to focus, and you could provide case studies and examples in advance that we can get into on the day.
Yeah.
So the nice thing about the bespoke workshop is that the in-house workshop is that probably 10 to 20% of the content becomes more bespoke to you. When we're doing a mixture of delegates from different agencies, I think things like pricing principles, strategies, tactics, understanding what procurement do and how they do it and how they think, a lot of that I find very agnostic. So when I was leading marketing procurement at Nike and EMEA, our team, I think there were 6 or 7 of us at one point, we were responsible for all of the marketing spend. Yeah. And a lot of the principles that we would coach the younger marketing procurement people in the team didn't change much depending on the category, in terms of how they would prepare for negotiations, in terms of how they would prepare RFPs and what they were looking for in RFPs. Remuneration models and styles change over time, as we know. I think there was a survey a couple of years ago from the American Advertising Association that was saying that 75% of brands are more willing than ever to pay agencies in different ways. So there's that move away from input-based pricing. So I think a lot of it, I think I'm basically saying in quite a lengthy way, a lot of this, 99% of this is going to be good enough for every agency to feel an impact. And at the prices that we've put it in at, we think it's going to pay for itself, like literally within the next time you engage with a brand, an existing client, a new prospect, especially when it gets to that pricing workshop, which is kind of the cherry on the cake of putting all of the skills from the first 3 workshops into practice. So yeah, I think it lends itself nicely across all marketing categories. And I think if you're interested in an in-house session because you're worried about it not being specific enough, then there's obvious benefits just in terms of the level of personal engagement that we can give related to your agency. Yeah, that's because, like I say, we're media, and a lot of the pricing we do is commission based, which actually is, has been talked about for many years as being outdated and et cetera, and particularly when you come into an area where spends are in decline and you're on a percentage of a spend that's in decline. Obviously your income is going down at the same time, and it might be that you're doing more work for less money all the time. So, but it is quite specific in media, I think, more than some of the other disciplines. Not solely, I may add, but more relevant. I mean, it's in terms of media commercials, media remuneration, I'm actually working on a media contract for a global brand at the moment. So it's something that I can help with. Cool.
Anything else?
I think you mentioned you've already done this series for exposure. Is that right?
Yes.
Do you have any, you had a really nice testimonial. Have you been able to measure the impact of the series on their profits as an agency? It might be a bit early for that, but that'd be really interesting. Just to kind of be able to take that back to someone like another decision maker, because I don't hold the purse strings, but I do think this would be a very useful thing for us, and something we're looking at. So that's one of my questions. And the other one was, do you think this is suitable for all levels or more kind of senior audience?
On the first question, Joe, we haven't measured the impact yet. We just delivered the pricing workshop in the first week of December, I think it was. So the feedback we've had has been verbal so far, rather than more quantitative, I suppose you could say. And then the second question, I think, if you have team members who are engaging in with brands directly, if they're an account manager, but you would want them to be able to cross-sell and upsell and identify opportunities, then they're relevant. And if also, the way I sometimes think about training is, if you don't train your good staff, someone else will end up doing it for you when they leave. So I think it's a great opportunity to invest in all levels of the business, to make them feel like they're on a track towards, you make people feel a certain way, don't you, when you invest in their training and you give them more capability and skills. And I think the broader and deeper you can get these sorts of capabilities and increased confidence into the agency, it pays back. I mean, if you get 8 people to a workshop on pricing, that's suddenly 8 people who become ninjas at pricing and able to articulate different types of remuneration models, able to defend those better, and suddenly you've got this greater confidence within the team, and you're able to talk about value in a different way, depending on whether it's marketing procurement, whether it's a marketing director. So yeah, I would say, if it's the difference between you deciding to take part and not, because that it's targeted at senior people, do think about going that level down as well. I would recommend that for sure.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions, I think we'll end it there. As I said, if you do think of anything, drop me a line. I can always pass it on to Stuart if needs be. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
everyone.
much.
Thank you.
Have a
See you
good day.
later.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.